Okay. So Patricio's head of innovation lab, ECO, who describes digital technologies, modeling, and simulation as the essence of the industry renaissance. He describes himself as terribly attracted to seemingly impossible challenges. Arthur Dubois works on empowering organizations who seek to develop innovative solutions to all problems. Arthur is head of analysis and stress at Joby Aviation. Thank you for coming and joining us at this panel. Landon Taylor is co-founder, chairman, and CEO at Base 11, a national STEM workforce and entrepreneur development company focused on developing a diverse pipeline of highly qualified engineering and computer science talent. So thanks all for joining. Let me start with you, Patricio. ECO is well known for offering consumers a unique experience when it comes to wearing shoes. Not only you're customizing comfort to a level unexperienced before and on a massive scale, thanks to your Quantified You project, but your technology is also helping consumers to improve their health. You are completely changing the footwear industry with such a radical multidisciplinary approach, right? Can you tell us more on what it means to you and ECO to drive such innovation to personalize?
Sure. Thanks for having me, by the way. Yes, this project was born, for those of you that haven't never heard about it, was born on the concept of trying to innovate on one of our pillars, which is comfort. And of course, it's very difficult to make a shoe more comfortable than the ones that we normally do. So we realized that to be able to do that, we have to go through customization. So we devised a process where you have a three-step experience, I would say, where at the first stage we scan people's feet, their shape. On the second phase, we measure through wearable sensor the person's gait. And on the third stage, we actually 3D print in silicon the interior of the shoe. This is because it's very difficult to, in general, shoes have been developed for an average person, while nobody's actually truly average. What is interesting is that during this experience that we had, we realized that as a footwear brand, we just stop actually there and getting somebody the most comfortable shoe for them. But what we realized is that from a wearable sensor, from our feet, we could actually get a lot of other information, which is so much related to health and to human science at the end. This is open a lot of what-if moments. For example, we're using a temperature sensor and a humidity sensor to calibrate the load cell. And you could use that, for example, if you're a diabetic, you can sense that the temperature is going up and the humidity is going up. It might be in a risk situation of getting a blister. Other things are, instability of gait or the difference between left and right leg. These are very, very interesting problems that you may find out that within 10 years, of developing them, they might lead to much more serious issues. And this goes as well from a child perspective. If you want to follow up their gait, during their life, then you can actually do it. And other trivial things like, if you do activity with certain things like wearing a backpack, we can sense that you're wearing a backpack and how heavy is that backpack in that moment. Maybe you can really tailor that product for that person for that specific activity.
Yeah, that's so relevant. Where do virtual worlds and accurate modeling and simulation fit into the system?
That's the big challenge. So normally you heard already yesterday and today there are many processes of scanning and creating a part for a body, which is really very bespoke. It's expensive and very tedious and slow. What we did is to simplify this process using the CATIA cloud. So we're using both Simulia and CATIA for the creation of we try to simplify this 3D shape as much as possible so that we could actually generate them on the fly. But of course, the density, my weight is different than your weight, and is different than your weight. So if the load cell gives those data, those parameters into the system creates a geometry and a solution based on those parameters. This would be impossible to do otherwise. The other thing that we like to explore in the future is when you start to have thousands and thousands of models of people, then you can really run a machine learning processes based on geometries. So usually you run these machine learning processes based on pure data. We can run that from another perspective. So it makes it incredibly interesting. And it really is actually human augmentation at the end.
It is indeed. So Arthur, customization is now an important part of aircraft design. Can you give us a brief sense on what this means for Joby Aviation?
Yeah, sure. First, thanks for having me. I would say customization is key to Joby Aviation. I'm going to even venture out and say that Joby would not be able to deliver a product a truly transformative product without customization. And I'm going to expand on that a little bit. You know, I like to think of an aircraft as many things, but one of those things is an integrated system. And so really, for an aircraft to function, you know, you need to have a lot of subsystems working together in harmony in a safe and functional way. I mean, that's the obvious part. Anyone who flies can agree with that. To go a little bit further into this, the next question comes in as to how do you design an optimal aircraft? And to do that, it starts at the root level, at the very subsystem level. And for each subsystem, you must be able to look at a range of different performance indicators at different scales, looking at the nuts and bolts all the way to the aircraft economics and the safety. And then the other piece, the other axis is really the multi-physics aspect. So if you can empower people to see both the multi-scale and the multi-physics, you can customize your design. And it's particularly important for Joby because we are trying to design an entirely new product, specifically an electric aircraft. And the energy density of batteries is nowhere close to the energy density of jet fuel. What this means is that we are working in a very, very, very highly constrained design space. And if we don't customize our parts, then we will not succeed.
Thank you. Landam, you are working to connect STEAM workforce training to underrepresented communities, such as women and minorities. Is this trend opportunity resonating well?
Yeah, I'd say it is. You know, Base 11 is a national STEM workforce and entrepreneurship development company, and we're focused on solving this STEM talent pipeline crisis in our country. The crisis is real. Right now, the forecast is that within the next 2 years, there'll be a shortage of 1 million qualified candidates for open jobs. So 1 million jobs will go unfulfilled or unfilled because we don't have enough candidates. And the problem is magnified by the lack of absence of women and minorities in the pipeline. The three biggest barriers that we're finding to women and minorities entering and excelling in STEM are lack of awareness, access, and belief. So a lack of awareness that an opportunity in engineering and computer science is even available, a lack of access to the facilities and the training that will provide them with the capability to be qualified, and a lack of belief that it's something that they can do. And so Base 11 is all about demolishing those barriers. And so far over the last 5 years, we've accelerated over 8,000 students on their pathways to careers in computer science and engineering. So I would say it is resonating so far.
Nice. So let's move on to our next theme, innovations that inspire. And Landam, will the workforce of the future be attracted to the world of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics today as the real driver for innovation?
Oh, for sure. I think I'll show you a little bit of an example. The students that we focus on are highly interested in applying innovation in STEM in a way that solves real-world problems that matter to them, which is why we chose Dassault Systèmes as our partner. Because these students, when they experience Base 11, in many cases, it's their first time experiencing real-world project-based learning in the classroom. And again, the Dassault platform has really been essential with that. Let me give you an example. You could see this is a cohort of students at the Base 11 Autonomous Systems Engineering Academy, which is held at University of California, Irvine Engineering School. And what's awesome is that they used the 3D Experience platform to design a fully functional drone from scratch. Now, what's awesome about that is that what they learn from a mindset and skill perspective is applicable to many industries beyond aerospace. So for example, when they go through that program, it's applicable to transportation and mobility. The woman on the far left there, she graduated, she's now an engineer at Mercedes-Benz. And then the woman on the far right, Brianna Allen, she was a community college student when she entered. And not only after she got inspired by using the platform to develop her drone and apply that to a real world experience, guess what? Life sciences. She then took the platform and designed a working prototype for a autonomous pill dispenser, which is now being used for her medtech startup that she's looking for funding.
Wow.
So this is a great example of using it, being inspired to then use it in real world examples.
Absolutely. And it is no secret that the young people are already building and experience these virtual worlds through multiplayer, multi-scenarios, connected games. How do we make these incredibly creative minds to take the leap towards virtual universes full by science, mathematics, and physics? Do we as a society have to rethink how we inspire them to innovate?
I think we do have to rethink it. Students are no longer really responding well to just theoretical education, saying, you know, here's the book. The students really want, especially millennials, they're more concerned about making a difference in the world than even making money. And so giving them the opportunity to connect a culturally relevant programming, working on things, as I said before, that really matter to them, working on the UN 17 sustainability goals. We're seeing that they get fired up about that. And then number two, allowing what we're communicating to them to be culturally relevant, giving them images of people who look like them that can inspire them. Leland Melvin is a former NASA astronaut, African-American male. For young African-American students who have never even heard of a pathway to engineering computer science, to see someone who looks like them, to inspire them that they can do it, that's some of the things that we have to do.
Thank you, Lana. Patricio, can you comment on the similarities or perhaps differences you are taking at ECO to somehow build this new customer experience through science and connected sensors?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, there's no going back today. The offers have to be different. You know, when you talk about experience, especially in retail, it's really, really difficult today to invent or come out with something new. So I think the project that we are, deploying at the moment is incredibly important because it gives insights into one's people person of things that you didn't even know that matter. They do really matter. And you start really with a lot of variables, that come from how that person is actually wearing that shoe that day, how you can actually change marketing. So because you never have to forget that when you are a marketeer, people that do product management or whatever, you relate so many times to those personas that you have in mind. The thing is that by using wearable sensors, you could actually gather a lot of sets of data that can tell you that maybe your customers are very sedentary or they're all elderly, because actually we can infer that from those measurements. So, sometimes when product and sensors are embedded in a proper way, it can give you that feedback back. And when you can create parts that can augment them and fix certain things and try to, because of course the product is always king. So, we are keeping this connection between, and in our case, just finding out that a person that has been once customized and once measured from a loyalty perspective will probably get back to you again and again in the future. So, there is a plethora of opportunities for these processes to be used for good, both from a business perspective and from an health perspective in general.
Absolutely. Thank you, Patricio. So, Arthur, the aerospace industry is going through this huge transformation. In what ways does Joby Aviation see science as a catalyzer?
Yes, that's a great question. I guess what comes to mind is where do I start? But really, I want to kind of bounce back on one of Landon's points, which is education. And I was in education not so long ago, and the thing I noticed is there's a lot of students who are trying to see just the formula to solve the problem without necessarily seeing the underlying science. And so I want to encourage everybody who knows students to just kind of try to imprint that in their head. People in industry care about science, not just the formula of the engineering problem. So how does this work at Joby? I think really when you're trying to design a product that is complex, that is new in a very highly constrained design space, you always have to go back to basics. And what these basics are is, obviously in this case, science. There's no roadmap to creating what we're trying to create. Nobody has done it before. And so I think, there's going to be roadblocks along the way, and the only way to get past those roadblocks is through, basic theory and science. Science has to be the light at the end of the tunnel that allows you to truly deliver a transformative product.
Absolutely. In the end, when you are radically transforming the aerospace industry with totally different concepts, you have to go back to the origins and science at the backbone. This brings us to our final theme, innovation to transform. Over the past 2 days, we got a real sense that innovation is critical to companies to keep up, delivering mass customization, sustainable business, inclusive technology. In the end, to deliver superior experiences. In established market like the aerospace industry, is this challenging? How do you get it right?
That's a good question, but first I'm going to start with a challenge. I would actually challenge the idea that the aerospace industry is established. I think that there's
Absolutely.
It might have been true a few years ago, and there might be some areas of it that are established, but we are seeing today a rise in creativity and innovation in aerospace. I mean, we've seen it with SpaceX, with Blue Origin. The space world is changing. And now, you know, for our market, Joby, the urban air mobility market, there's now hundreds of companies trying to do this. And so there's you know, from both the big players and the small structures, there is truly transformative ideas that are being put, you know, on the table. But to kind of go back to your question, I think the way you can truly deliver innovation in a company like ours specifically is through empowerment of each and every single individual contributor. I think that, you know, it's our job as team leaders and as company leaders to build cultures where people are encouraged to own, to tinker, to try, and to fail. Because that is truly the way that you get the creativity. And you know, some people who are maybe in aerospace would probably partially disagree with me because, you know, an aircraft is a vehicle for which safety is paramount. You know, the aerospace industry has built its reputation on an impeccable safety record. And so how do we mitigate the need for creativity and failure, because there will be failures, with the desire to have a safe product at the end? So my answer to this has always been virtual worlds. If you can enable people to try and fail in the virtual world, you unleash that creativity while still delivering an inherently safe product. And then the other aspect is the empowerment, right? Once people are given the tools, if they can be the center node of decision making for their own subsystem, if they can receive information from performance indicators for their subsystem from different levels, looking at you know, the nuts and bolts of how their part is being attached to the airplane, all the way to how their system might affect the economics or the safety of the entire aircraft, then they will feel like they are a part of the puzzle, and they will feel empowered to really contribute. So to me, and really at Joby, the idea that we have is to be able to connect each and every single person with the design, the analysis, the optimization, the system aspects, the safety aspects, and have those people be the center node of the decision making and of the creative design process.
Absolutely, Arthur. So in the end, the aerospace industry is undergoing a renaissance. And how do you make your team members feel connected, feel relevant, feel their impact contribution in this environment? It seems you're talking about a multi-scale, multidisciplinary approach where they feel relevant for different KPIs. Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, really, it kind of goes back to what I was saying. There's the multi-scale aspect, from the nuts and bolts to the system, to the aircraft, the safety, even the business model. If one person can wrap their head around this, they will be better. And then the other axis of this is the physics. You know, a mechanical system is never just a mechanical system. It's a thermal system. It's an electromagnetic system. And so the more you can channel all that information to one person, the more you can empower them to make the right decision, and hence leading to a better product at the end.
Absolutely. Orlando, I want to come back to you. Do the workforce of the future see the power of an inclusive platform aggregating knowledge and know-how?
Yeah, in a big way. Here's an example. So Base 11, we launched the world's largest space challenge, a $1 million space challenge. The largest university space challenge for teams to compete to design, build, and launch a rocket that can make it to the Kármán line. by 2021. Dassault Systèmes, I'm proud to say, is a major partner with us, along with several leading aerospace companies, Blue Origin, SpaceX, Firefly, and there's 25 teams in the United States and Canada all competing. And over 690 students have the 3D Experience platform technology, and they're using it. And we were at Caltech for the first phase of the competition about 4 months ago. And what was amazing, I got my notes here, what was amazing is we, along with Dassault, we awarded the Early Adopter Award to see if they'd be willing to use it. And these students were using the platform for project planning, engineering, capturing video, collaboration, as you were mentioning. And they're really, I think this is a good example of going from knowledge to know-how. And I've heard the term, from the Dassault professionals talking about this term of, going from the digital to the real. And I think that's what I'm seeing these students do as they're looking to innovate, transform, and disrupt two, I think, traditionally rigid industries, aerospace, although it's changing, and education. This is what these students are doing. And I'd like to say our prediction is with our national spokesperson and role model, former NASA astronaut Leland Melvin at the helm. We're sure to help discover the next Katherine Johnson, the next Elon Musk, of the 21st century. So I think it's really inspiring to see how much they're adopting it.
Indeed, and that is so exciting. So truly exploring in the virtual to transform the real. Will we win the contest? Do you think so?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, be on the lookout.
Okay. Thank you, Landon. So finally, Patricio, as we augment traditional products with intelligent skills that improve our consumers' health and well-being, what do you see as the next step in this journey? Will this continue to be transformational or will be rather incremental?
Well, I think it's going to be definitely in the hands of the consumer. I think what is important today for me is that every time you devise a customization system, you may have control over what you can do, usually colors and maybe materials to some extent. What we are working on at the moment is really transformational in a way that once you have a product that can be adapted and can change certain aspects of your gait and the way that you move around, that information can be under your control, or can be under the control of a medical professional, or can be under the control of a coach, if that's your basketball team. And you can eventually remeasure yourself and understand if you have been actually increasing or performing better, or if that condition has been mitigated. This is probably one of the biggest transformations for me that in products in general will assume do in the next years. I don't know, it's not really easy. We were lucky to find something that everybody wears. Everybody wears shoes most of the time. Yeah. In a shoe, there is enough room to put a wearable sensor in it, so there isn't really a lot of challenges there. But the entire culture of quantifying yourself, with your Apple Watch and other devices, then people, really do a lot of activity based on feedback that they get from those sensors. We actually add another layer to that, which is super interesting. So I think that this is going to be probably one of the most important things in the future, how you can, or the portability of this data. So to go between that system, or if it's a sports domain, into a medical domain, into simply a daily life, a domain where things are much less complicated. But this is for us very fascinating. So having the consumer in control of that.
Yeah, it
and
is.
By the way, aren't these the coolest shoes ever?
Yeah. This is what I was thinking.
I need some of that.
Right, I want to get one of those as quick as possible. And in the end, we won't just quantify ourselves for better health and well-being. In the end, this will be fun also, right? So we will be able to play gamification.
I definitely think so. You have no idea how many issues are coming from people wearing the wrong pair of shoes or having the wrong gait, or. So these are things that, if they can help in a broader sense, I think it's really, really fascinating what we can do.
Okay, so and that concludes our product innovation panel. I think we have here remarkable stories about customization, personalization of science and virtual universes, full in inspiration and innovation, transforming the industry towards skills that are inclusive, sustainable business and operations, breathtaking experience full by holistic multidisciplinary approach to product innovation. It's a journey we are all going through, and I wish you all succeed as you transform the world we live in. Thank you very much.